This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 new bridges between our lands.
Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. This is your host, Dr. Kaloy Tabunda from the New Era University ASEAN Studies Center and the Center for International Linkages. Ngayon ay last week of May and we are observing the first year anniversary of the Marawi Siege, which started May 23, 2017 last year. And to discuss with us on the current status in Marawi, no other than our special guest for today, Dr. Romel C. Manlawi, who is the chairman of the board of the Philippine Institute for Peace, Violence, and Terrorism Research and the president of the Center for Intelligence and National Security Studies. He's currently teaching at the International Studies Department of Miriam College. Welcome to the show, Professor Manlawi.
Okay. Nice to be here.
Okay. First question, how is Marawi now?
Well, right now there are still a lot of humanitarian challenges because still all the residents of the main battle area have not returned to
how
their
many
houses.
percent have returned?
In the affected areas, there are more than 50% already. In the affected areas,
Have returned.
They have returned to their houses. But if we talk about the ground zero or the main battle area, no one has returned yet.
Okay.
And they still continue to be internally displaced persons in different cities in Mindanao, like Cagayan de Oro, Iligan, Cotabato City, and some towns in Lanao del Sur.
So they're still staying in evacuation centers, and I think many of them are with their families right now.
Yeah. Many are still staying in their in the evacuation centers, particularly in several towns in Lanao del Sur. But some became home-based IDPs, meaning they are staying with their relatives in several cities in Mindanao, in Cagayan de Oro, Iligan, Cotabato City.
And I heard some of them are also here in Metro Manila.
Some are now in Metro Manila, joining their relatives here in Colyat, in Taguig, in Quiapo. So I consider the Maranao people of Marawi City as in the state of diaspora because many have not yet returned. But in the affected areas, in the surrounding communities around the main battle area, many have returned already.
Okay. So how are the rehabilitation efforts ongoing?
Right now, the rehabilitation effort is still in the planning and preparatory stage because right now the main battle area, the main challenge there is to remove all the improvised explosive devices and landmines planted by the ISIS group.
So they have not been removed yet?
It has not been declared cleared.
Yes.
And before you build something there, you really have to really clear the area. And based on the estimate of our government agencies, it will take at least a year more before they can really totally clear the area, and no rehabilitation or infrastructure development can happen in the main battle area without the clearing operation.
Okay. When you say clearing operation, so you will remove all the bombs there?
Yeah, you have to remove all the bombs because it's very challenging to remove all the bombs because if you will use the ordinary technology, there are a lot of metals in the area, so you really have to exercise due diligence in really finding out which is an improvised explosive device or just a pure ordinary metal.
And then all the affected buildings, the destroyed buildings, will have to be torn down? evacuees?
That's still being debated because there are proposals stating that some parts of Marawi City should be preserved to be tourist spots. So all those ruins should be
Memorial
preserved,
for the
part of
siege.
memorial. But there are also proposals to convert major parts of the city as like the global city, like that, metropolitan, modern, and with global standards.
Okay, so that's the physical aspect of rehabilitation. How about the emotional aspect of it? I mean,
In fact,
all the victims of the siege.
Yeah, having visited the area, I think
You just arrived. Actually.
I just arrived from Marawi City. I went to the main battle area, and I think the main priority should be the rehabilitation of the spirit and the rehabilitation of the minds of the affected,
emotional,
the emotions, mental, They really need to rehabilitate their hopes also. So before you can raise the infrastructure in Marawi City, the first thing that we have to do is to really raise the hopes and spirits of those affected families and individuals.
Well, how was it? You experienced firsthand talking with the evacuees. How was it?
Well, it's really the situation there is really very challenging, especially if you're living in the tent city. Those evacuees living in the tent city, it's really they are really suffering all the humanitarian challenges because of the lack of amenities like proper ventilation in their tent, and water, and food supply. So there are some luckier communities because they have better shelters, better facilities, especially those who already are enjoying the transitional shelters built by the local government. But still, those people in the IDPs are still suffering many humanitarian challenges.
But there are certain agencies, personalities who are attending to these emotional and mental needs of
the DSWD and many CSOs, NGOs, and several humanitarian organizations, including my organizations, are in fact involved in the many aspects of rehabilitation, but not the infrastructure aspect, but on the emotional, spiritual, and intellectual aspect of rehabilitation. Because in my view, as a scholar of international relations and security studies, if we will not pay attention to the rehabilitation of their minds, of their spirits, then we will make them vulnerable to the spread of an ideology we call violent extremism.
Okay.
Because the situation there is really
very ripe for the development of that violent extremism ideology.
That's right.
What about the children? How are they coping up?
Well, in fact, it's more challenging for the children and the elderly because of their vulnerabilities. Children are suffering several types of diseases, diarrhea, skin diseases, bronchitis, and even the elderly are suffering, especially during the summer season, suffering a lot of elderly-related diseases. It's worse if you're in your own home, and worse if you're in the evacuation center, but enough if you're in your own regular homes. So the suffering becomes worse if you're in the evacuation areas.
What about schooling for the children?
Right now, they are now planning to build the temporary schools for those people in the evacuation centers, but they are
You mean the school-age children are going to school now?
Right now, no, they are not going to school.
Okay.
Some refuse to go to school because of the
trauma.
of the trauma and a lot of economic and social challenges.
Okay.
Yeah, but now they are preparing for the opening of the school year.
Open June. Next month.
A
few days from now.
Yeah. And thanks to the support of many CSOs and NGOs, they are donating something to address the needs of the school children there in the evacuation camps, particularly in the tent city.
Okay. What about the local government? How are they performing now?
Right now, because of the state of martial law, local government is trying to really perform. In fact, in Lanao del Sur, it is very famous for a phenomenon we call RIDO. Now, with the declaration of martial law, clans are no longer involved in armed fighting. because the military said that if you will continue the armed fighting, then
you will fight with us.
Yeah, and we will remove you from your office. So the reader is now being done in the Facebook. You know, the wives are quarreling over in the Facebook, but no longer using their guns. Yeah.
I mean, anyway, this is something cultural. Pero from an outsider, he would ask, naiisip pa nila yun?
Yeah,
this
because
can stay there and
because
now.
that's part of the
culture
already. That if the clan is involved in a certain conflict with another clan, because of their concept of maratabat, they have to save their pride and honor. They have to save their face, though. So they are engaged in a clan feud.
Okay, I think it would need another episode to discuss this Rido and the Maratabat in the Maranao area. Okay, what about the national government? How is the national government now doing in this area?
Well, the national government has created this task force Bangon Marawi, which is the lead agency
Bangon Marawi,
to really rehabilitate the area. So they have their plans to develop the area into a cosmopolitan city, and in order to normalize the life of the affected families. But this is the problem, Kaloy. The affected communities and the government have their own definition of normalization.
So you have to combine now the ideals of rehabilitation according to the local community and according to the national government. So anong ginagawa? What are you doing to reconcile all of this? Can this be reconciled?
That's why there's a need for the government to really engage the affected communities.
The national government.
The national government in a serious dialogue in order to have social acceptability for any rehabilitation programs there. Like, for example, the definition of the Philippine government of normalization is a new normal. Normal, but some affected families, they want to go back to the old normal, and that's their definition of normalization. So we have to convince the affected families that normalization would mean accepting a new normal situation, not going back to the old normal.
Okay, this is a very complex issue, and it would need lots of dialogues to really come to agreements with this. But before we go for further questions, ASEAN in Focus will return.
Good.
Welcome to the garden. A world that recaptures the value of life, creating your moments, kindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. This is your world, your life, your garden.
Eagle News teams are fair.
Sa impeachment complaint laban kay Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno, ang ilang maestra.
Ang rekomendasyon na makasuhan ang mga sangkot kasama na ang mga opisyal ng customs.
Hardworking.
Papaunlad ng isang bata na magiging isang future youth leaders.
Dedicated.
Sa nasawi ay dito natagpuan yung bangkay.
Ito yung kanilang paraan ng pag-aalaga ng mga may sakit na leprosy noong unang panahon.
Committed to public service.
Ang chairmanship ng ASEAN sa bansang Singapore.
Marami yung mga biktima ng mga nawawala. Ang ng Bureau of Customs na nasa merkado na yung mga pinaking produkto.
Sa kapila ng mga kilos protesta na nanatiling
dahil
payapa.
Dahil sa mabilis na pagresponde ng mga pamatay sunog, ang apoy mabilis na
karoon ng equal opportunity ang ibang mga kababaihan.
Ng mga kabataan at ipinakita sa pamagitan ng kanilang mga likha.
Nanatiling kulang pa rin ang tubig para sa irigasyon, para sa pagtatanim ng ating mga kababayang magsasaka.
As we live in interesting times.
Diskusyon, Biyernes alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng gabi.
Okay, we're back with an interview with Dr. Romel C. Banlawi, and we're still talking about the first year anniversary of the Marawi Seeds. Okay, you're talking of the Rido, we talked about the Marata, but although mababaw lang, before we pause, you talk about the acceptability of national government plans in the locality. So, what do you think can be done to reconcile the ideals of the local community and the ideals of the national government? Sino ba dapat ang masunod?
Well, of course, the voice of the people should be heard.
Okay.
So they really have to really consult the affected communities, the affected families, the affected individuals. During the congressional hearing, Congressman of Lanao del Sur even raised that question, that how come you will implement this kind of projects in Marawi City without consulting the people? So it's very, very crucial that the people should be consulted and accept any project. Just a matter of convincing them. In fact, there's now a movement in Marawi City asking the Philippine government to really hear their voice for any project to be implemented there. You know,
right now, I'm thinking about the Clash of Civilizations by Samuel Huntington.
Yeah. A lot of clashes of civilization, clash of ideas also. But I think that's very, very crucial. We really have to consult the people.
So there's no plan yet. There's no final plan yet.
There are a lot of proposals.
Yes.
But those proposals should meet the requirement of the Philippine government. A lot of proposals coming from different contractors and the government will decide.
Should meet the requirement of the Philippine government, for the Philippine national government. But you're saying that there's a problem between what the national government wants and what the local communities want.
Yeah,
so
because
how do we arrive at the consensus? So if they can't arrive at the consensus now, so it would take more time to come up with the final plan.
They have to compromise, you know. If both parties will be hardline on this matter, so there will be no peaceful resolution. You know, those affected families who are not satisfied with the proposal of the government, you know, they are vulnerable to rebel, to rebel against the situation. So to prevent them from rebelling again, then we really need to get their acceptance. They really have to accept and to own the project, because without the ownership of the affected communities, you will create another problem. So we will face another vicious cycle of violence and conflict in the area.
Okay, we talk about martial law. Martial law is already 1 year old already.
Yeah.
How is martial law now?
Well, I'm very surprised.
Do you feel martial law?
Well, in Metro Manila, of course, we don't feel martial law because it's implemented in Mindanao. But when I went to Mindanao, visiting several cities, Cagayan de Oro, Iligan, Marawi, Cotabato City, I am so surprised to discover that the great majority of the people I talk to, they want martial law because first, martial law can tame the behavior of the local governments. Yeah.
And are the local governments
the local governments, they are tame because the military will just say, hey, this is martial law. We have the power to remove you from office if you don't behave. So you better behave, you cooperate, you deliver. So and the people want that kind of situation because it's taming the behavior.
This is true for the whole Mindanao.
The whole Mindanao. That's for the whole Mindanao. Martial law is in effect in all Mindanao.
So what can you say about those quarters who are calling for the repeal of martial law? Many of them anyway are not from Mindanao.
Yeah, because they are not. But that's my discovery. But at this, when I observed how the martial law is being implemented in Mindanao, there's no really full implementation of martial law.
Why?
Because if you really want to implement martial law, you take over the governance. The military has not taken over the governance apparatuses. They are still allowing local governments to operate, but with the supervision of the military. But I think martial law is being implemented, like for example in setting up curfew, in intensifying checkpoints
in whole Mindanao.
Yeah, whole of Mindanao, intensifying checkpoints,
yes.
And issuing warrant of arrest to threat personalities. And
warrant of arrest or warrantless arrest?
Warrantless arrest, yeah.
Okay.
Warrantless
so meron
arrest.
ganun talaga?
Yeah,
okay.
warrantless arrest because you suspend the writ of habeas corpus. So those are the things, those are the indicators of martial law. But beyond that, taking over governance, I think martial law is not being implemented fully well.
Yeah.
Because if martial law will be implemented fully well, then the military should take over.
Yes, the governance.
They will take over.
Well, that's one of the comments. You know, those things you can do even without the benefit of a martial law. What can you say about that?
Because without martial law, the local government can undermine the efforts of the military, can undermine the efforts of law enforcement authorities.
If only for that you agree to the continued imposition of martial law.
Yeah, because you know naman Kaloy, diba, there are some local government officials who are also protecting their
personal and
groups,
interests and other threat groups. So what can you say to those quarters, especially those people here in Metro Manila who are saying that martial law should be repealed in Mindanao now?
They have a point because of the bad experiences during the martial law period during martial law, diba? So I think still needed to hear their voices, for the Philippine government to know their doubts about martial law. That's also needed, but I'm just saying that if you go to Mindanao, the people want martial law. Local leaders, maybe some local leaders who are affected by the implementation of martial law, they want it repealed. But for those benefiting from martial law implementation, they love it. I talk to ordinary people, they love martial law because, you know, the warlords are benign now.
Yes,
you know?
are being controlled now.
Yeah, being controlled. Yeah.
Pero yung kasi if it's really martial law, they should have confiscated the arms, the armories of the warlords. Has that been done?
That's why the martial law implementation in Mindanao, I think, is the most benign martial law being implemented because they are not.
So they're still keeping their arms.
Yeah, they can keep their arms, but don't use your arms against each other. That will disturb the peace.
So what if martial law is lifted? They can use those arms again.
Oh, well, that is why the people want it to maintain it because
the martial law. Okay.
Yeah.
How do we prevent a next Marawi?
Well, right now, there are a lot of efforts, not only on the part of the Philippine government, but also on the part of CSOs and NGOs doing what we call preventing violent extremism and countering violent extremism. In Cotabato City, I participated in a CMO activities.
What's CMO again?
Civil military operations.
Okay.
Because part of the civil military operation is also the process called countering violent extremism. They organize stakeholders, seminars and forums to discuss the phenomenon of ISIS and why violent extremism should be opposed by the people and how to insulate yourself from the recruitment of groups embracing violent extremism.
Okay.
So
one of the comments when this happened was that Marawi happened because of a failure of intelligence, but of course we don't know. We know for a fact that it's not a failure of intelligence because the people knew what was going on months before this. So what should we do?
I think it's not a failure of intelligence because I'm privy to the fact that
6 months before Marawi happened,
even years before that,
they knew what was happening. But they failed to act on it. So
I think it's what the failure, I think, emanates from the failure to prevent, because Marawi City was preventable incident. If we only implement measures to prevent these things to escalate,
such as what?
Talking to the youth about their vulnerabilities and this kind of ideology is spreading like wildfire in the social media, then the government should have also implemented similar types of countermeasures in the internet, in the social media, to prevent the youth from embracing this ideology, and at the same time the entry of foreign terrorist personalities coming from different parts of the world particularly in the Middle East.
Should be monitored.
It should be monitored.
Prevented.
Yeah. And you know what? My discovery, Kaloy, the 60% of the foreign terrorist fighters who participated during the Marawi city siege, they did not enter the Philippines through the back door. They entered through our immigration.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was in fact revealed by the...
So it was legal entrance.
Yeah, yeah.
In order to come up with the
They
very
used legal cover like the
action.
Johor in Marawi City. The Johor, the Islamic propagation activities, and also the activities being initiated by the Jamaat Tabligh. Jamaat Tabligh is very peaceful, pious organization, but bad guys always use that as a cover to do bad things.
Okay, coming up next, we will ask our guest, Dr. Romel Sibanlawi, on the burning China Sea issue when ASEAN in Focus Weekend returns.
The machine is back at it. Guns N' Roses, not in this lifetime tour.
Welcome to the jungle.
The rock spectacle of 2018 comes to the Philippines. November 11th, 2018 at Philippine Arena, Bulacan. Pre-sale for Fan Club members on June 8th, 10 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Public on sale June 9, 10 a.m. Don't miss Guns N' Roses. Brought to you by MMI Live and Prestige Worldwide.
Welcome to the garden. A world that brings you back to that natural, carefree feeling of joy and happiness. A place where art becomes your song to strengthen bonds. Creating your moments, kindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. A world that recaptures the value of life. Breathe. This is your world, your life, your garden.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Landmarks, Linggo, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi.
Okay, we're back with our interview with Dr. Romel Sibanlawi, and this time we're going to talk about the South China Sea issue. A very controversial development during this last week only, when news came out that China has begun stationing bombers in the disputed islands in the South China Sea. What can you say about this?
Well, China has admitted stationing bombers and several aircraft in the area and missiles. And China said that it's part of their right to defend those territories, which they claim integral part of its territories. So China is justifying their actions by saying that we did not start it, other claimants did it. But I think China matters because China is the only major power claimant in the South China Sea. So small actions coming from China will be taken seriously by the claimants, not only by the claimants, but also by the littoral states and other stakeholders in the security of the South China Sea area.
Why should the Philippines be alarmed when the planes were stationed in Woody Island? That's not part of our territorial dispute with China, but we should still be alarmed.
Well,
Why?
because the capabilities of that bombers can also reach the littoral states in the South China Sea, including the Philippines. It can even extend farther towards the Asia-Pacific region. And if you will analyze the strategic objective of China, China is really strengthening its capability to operate not only in what we call the first island chain in the South China Sea, but also in the second island chain that can cover the Philippine Rise and the wider Asia-Pacific region.
But China keeps on denying that it's not militarizing.
Well, what's in the name? Because they have a different definition of militarization, because China is also accusing the United States of militarizing the area because of its freedom of navigation operations. But I think China is intensifying its military activities, and China's military actions in the South China Sea can be considered to be epoch-making, because China has not done that in the past, and it's only recently that China has increased its military activities and development of its military facilities, not only in the Woody Island, in the Paracel, but also in the Spratlys, particularly in 7 artificial islands that belong to the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. And I think that's the main problem there. China built artificial islands in the waters belonging to the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. And China has stationed missile ships, anti-cruise missiles, and powerful radar and satellite facilities in those artificial islands.
Okay. Presidential spokesman Harry Roque expressed very serious concern about this development. But President Duterte said this is no cause for threat, because this is not an immediate threat to the Philippines. And I think he refused to file a diplomatic protest. What can you say about this? Because
President Duterte has changed its approach in dealing with China, compared with the approach of the previous administrations. President Duterte is a very pragmatic leader.
Pragmatic. The word is pragmatic.
Yeah, he wants to take advantage of the economic might of China, and wants to benefit from that economic might. So he is slowing down the assertion of our claim without necessarily surrendering our claim. He is setting aside the decision of the International Arbitral Tribunal without necessarily abandoning it. But the main priority, just setting aside, just freezing it, but not really abandoning the decision.
And that could not be abandoned because that's now part of international jurisprudence.
Right? But President Duterte is prioritizing the development of friendly ties with China, because I think of many pragmatic considerations, like for example, he wants China to really give assistance for the construction of Davao Expressway. So that is very, very important. And President Duterte also wants to access China's money to start the building of the Chico Dam. And also market for 1,500 English teachers. And most importantly, markets of several fruit products coming from Davao provinces, pineapple, bananas, mangoes, durians, those are the things that Duterte wants to accomplish. And at the same time, investments from China. Now, China has become #1 trading partner now of the Philippines. But the question is, are those economic benefits commensurate with our sovereign rights?
To the virtual surrender of most of our sovereign rights.
But in fact, we are not surrendering. In fact, we are not surrendering, but not really asserting it. Not really asserting it. But I think President Duterte is implementing a certain type of tactic that is not being explained to the public yet. But he has a tactic to get these economic benefits because of the realization of President Duterte himself. He declared this in public, that I cannot afford to deal with China militarily. I can only deal with China diplomatically.
But there are some quarters which say that, of course, Vietnam, they raised whole over, over what China is doing, and yet they're still engaging economically with China. Why can't we be like that?
We cannot do what Vietnam is doing, because Vietnam has just developed submarine capability. Vietnam was able to procure several diesel-type submarines from Russia. And Vietnam also developed their military strong enough to fight any major powers. And you know the track record of Vietnam, you know, Vietnam defeated America during the Vietnam War.
Defeated China in some wars.
And encountered China in several wars in the past and recently in the Paracel during the 1980s. So Vietnam has that track record. The Philippines does not have that track record. Our track record is like saving South Korea during the Korean War, right? But that's not the option now of the current government. The option is to really pursue diplomatic option with China to get economic advantages, and at the same time,
so you're saying in fact that we're weak.
Well, that's the reality. That's the reality. But our stand is, in fact, in arbitration. Although President Duterte is not using arbitration, I think we still have the upper hand strategically because we still have the decision of the court. If China will fail to deliver its promises of economic assistance to the Philippines, I think we still have the last card to use against China, and that is the arbitration. We can go back to the old option of mobilizing the international community to tell, hey, we gave China the benefit of the doubt, but China failed to deliver. So now, the Philippines has no other alternative now but to go back to
do you think China is responding enough? I mean, is it giving, you know, the commensurate economic assistance to the Philippines?
I think that's one of the major outcomes of this friendly relationship with China. Number one, Filipino fishermen are back in Scarborough Shoal.
Okay.
Second,
but they still cannot enter the, you know,
the lagoon. The lagoon, of course, they need to compromise, but at least they can fish there in the vicinity of the Scarborough Shoal.
Okay. Anyway, we will talk more about this. We will just pause for a break, and we will continue answering the question: is China delivering enough in exchange for, you know, for quote-unquote virtual surrendering of part of our sovereignty to China? Okay. ASEAN in Focus. We'll come back.
Lahat ng register.
Ako cash register, bala
Yung nga, pati yung LTO registration book. Buti hindi niya nakalimutan.
Mga Broadway niya eh. Kasi,
ay
naku, pamakantay mo na naman ako. Yan ginawa mo sa akin.
Sunod-sunod na yan.
Hindi lang siya nasaktan kasi ng isang beses, dalawang beses, tatlong beses, maraming beses.
Sa isang tao yun.
Dahil sa isang tao.
Kahit sino in love, kapag kasama mo yung mahal mo sa buhay at nanonood kayo ng TV at kailangan na niyang umuwi, pero sasabihin niya, huwag ka muna umuwi dito.
Ayun. Sabi niya kasi meaningful daw yung Blue Rose, kaya
binigyan mo siya.
Apo.
Walang dahilan.
Hindi kasi meaningful yun for her.
Apo.
Kaya kahit anong meaningful, bibigay mo talaga sa minamahal mo, di ba?
Yung inspirasyon, iba-iba rin eh. Depende rin sa mood.
Oo, total. Nakita mo na ako, may dagdag inspirasyon.
In the end, sobrang worth it ng mga nangyari. Kaya nga nung natapos kami, iyak talaga ako. Feeling ko gumraduate ako.
Letters and Music, Monday to Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. only here on Net 25.
In these interesting times, these people have a big role to play. People behind news making. Your daily companions in service to humanity. Eagle News Service.
Pep News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Okay, we're back with our last portion of interview with Dr. Romel C. Banlawi, and we're still talking here about the South China Sea issue. Before we ended, during the last segment, the question was, is China delivering enough with its promises to compensate for what the Philippines has been, quote-unquote, surrendering to China now? So you mentioned about the Scarborough shoal, wherein the Filipino fishermen can now fish around the vicinity, but not inside
the lagoon.
Inside the lagoon.
The lagoon is still restricted area. But now, one of the outcomes of our friendly ties with China is that we can now freely do our rotation and resupply missions in the 9 occupied geographic features of the Philippines.
Okay.
Before, we are being harassed by China. We are being hampered by China to do economic activities there. But now, China is allowing us to do it. Allowing us to do it.
Yeah.
Because China has a might to really prevent us, although it's our exclusive economic zone.
Okay. Bahay mo to, sige, pabayaan kitang pumasok.
Yeah. That's the fact, because China has a might to.
Okay. The principle of might is right.
Yeah, the might is right. But now President Duterte is changing its approach towards China. Instead of really confronting China on that aspect, you befriend China so that we can do some other things that is more important for President Duterte. Like, for example, during the Battle of Marawi, the Philippine government was able to get donations from China to have some firearms. And in the drug of war, China donated some money for the rehabilitation centers and also for equipment to be used for the drug war. So those things, as I said earlier, the fruits from Davao provinces can now freely enter China. But China is not delivering full enough. Why? Because all the promises of economic assistance has not been delivered yet. Like, for example, the multi-billion-dollar assistance from China. Most of the projects are still in what we call the feasibility studies stage yet. Because of some issues pertaining to some details in the implementation of that project. So those monies are not still being delivered. Japan has already delivered. The construction of the subway in Metro Manila will start now. But China is not delivering what we call big ticket projects. It remains to be seen. We still need to monitor that. And if China fails to deliver, I think that's the time that the Philippine government should wake up and said, hey, you're just taking us for a ride.
What about the joint exploration of for oil?
Well, that's now I think that's the way ahead now. I think that's one of the major breakthroughs in talking with China. Both countries have already signified their interest to really pursue joint development in the South China Sea, particularly in the controversial Recto Bank. Recto Bank, or the what you call that in English, the Reed Bank, the Reed Bank. So, but the devil is in the details. So they're still talking about.
Still waiting. They're still talking.
But I think they already have some common understanding. About the need to jointly develop that area. And I think we also have to ask more clarifications from China if we can still conduct economic activities in our exclusive economic zone close to those artificial islands.
So we need to clarify from China whether we can still
do economic
activities in our exclusive economic zone.
Because the court said China should vacate.
Yes, but it's not vacating.
It's not vacating, and I see
we cannot drive them away.
And China has no intention to leave. And on the basis of the facilities in those artificial islands, I think China has the intention to stay there permanently. At our expense.
Until when can we put up with this?
It's very difficult now. Our position is very difficult because China is a rising power. China is gearing up to become a global power. So it's very difficult to really pursue a hardline position on this matter. We really have to really strengthen our diplomatic skills to get the best from our relationship with China. Yeah, we have to strengthen our diplomacy. Militarily, we cannot do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, one last concern. Can you comment on the code of conduct?
Right now, yeah. One of the major achievements of the Philippine government when we hosted the ASEAN summit last year is we were able to compel China to sign the framework on the code of conduct in the South China Sea, and now Singapore is chairing the ASEAN, and that issue is being put on the table again. And we hope that Singapore will be able to move forward beyond the framework now. But China is not in a hurry to have the final code of conduct.
It has not been in a hurry for the last 20 years before coming up with the framework.
Yeah, because China said we need to get the single step in a 1,000-mile journey.
We need another 20 years to think
but
it over.
The Philippines, the Philippines wants the immediate passage of the code of conduct in order to have a rule-based regime. But because of the friendly ties between the Philippines and China under Duterte, Duterte is no longer pushing it immediately. In fact, the wording now is eventual passage of the code of conduct. But me, as a scholar, I think we need a code of conduct in the South China Sea in order to really set the legal parameters for the actions of all the claimants there. Because without the code of conduct, then South China Sea will be ruled by force and not by law.
What's your objective analysis of all of this? What's happening now with the relationship with China? Is it good for us?
The taste of the pudding is in the eating. It remains to be seen. Okay. If this friendly ties with China will allow the Philippines to have economic activities in our exclusive economic zone and benefit from the rich marine resources there, and I think that's the gauge, the yardstick of our success of being friendly with China. But if we cannot enjoy all the marine resources in our exclusive economic zone, then I think it's a failure. So we really have to
let's just hope for the best.
We really
and do you think we really need to support our president?
We hope President Duterte is doing it right.
Okay.
Because if President
we are with him, because if he fails, we all fail.
We don't want to. We want him to succeed because if
he succeeds,
we will succeed as a nation. If he fails, then we will fail as a nation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Romel. Thank you very much for coming. Okay. Thank you very much for watching our show. And this is ASEAN in Focus Weekend Edition. I'm Koloy Tabunda, and I'm one with 25.
Sir Benny, ano po ba ang tunay na kahulugan ng tagumpay para po sa inyo?
Well, ang tagumpay is hindi lang yung sarili mo yung mapapasaya mo. Ang kailangan, yung lahat din ng tao na mahal sa buhay mo is napasaya mo, kaibigan, o kung sino man na dapat mong bigyan ng tulong, yun ang matatawag natin na tagumpay ng bawat tao. Ito po si Benny Saturno. Abangan niyo po ako ngayong Sabado sa RYTS. Rule Yourself to Success, dito lang sa Net 25.
I am Leo Aquino, EBC correspondent from Vancouver, Canada, and I am standing here in front of the Olympic Cauldron located in downtown Vancouver. Did you know that the 2010 Winter Olympic was hosted in Vancouver? Make sure to tune in to Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. I am Leo Aquino, and I am one with 25.
Ayon sa Pag-asa, ang average temperature sa bansa ngayong summer ay nasa pagitan ng 25 hanggang 32 degrees Celsius. Ang ating heat index ay maaari po namang umabot sa 40 degrees Celsius o mas mataas pa. Kaya naman nagabala ang Department of Health o DOH sa paglaganap ng mga karamdaman ngayong panahon ng matinding tag-init. Isa sa mga karamdamang ito ay ang heat exhaustion. Ang heat exhaustion ay isang kondisyon kung saan ang mga sintomas ay kadalasang matinding pagpapawis, mabilis na pulso bilang resulta ng labis na pag-init ng katawan. Ito ay isa sa mga 3 magkakaugnay na syndrome kasama ng heat cramps bilang pinaka-mild at ang heat stroke bilang pinakamalala. Ilan sa pinagmumulan ng heat exhaustion ay ang exposure sa mataas na temperatura, partikular na ang sobrang maalinsangan na paligid at matinding pisikal na aktibidad. Kapag hindi naagapan ng heat exhaustion ay maaaring umabot sa heat stroke, isang nakamamatay na kondisyon. Ang mga senyales at sintomas ng heat exhaustion ay maaaring lumala kaagad, lalo na kapag mahaba ang oras na aktibidad o kaya naman ng gawain. Narito ang mga sintomas ng heat exhaustion: pinagpapawisan ng malamig at tumatayo ang mga balahibo, matinding pagpapawis, pagkahimatay, pagkahilo, pagkapagod, mahina, mabilis na pulso, mababang blood pressure kapag nakatayo, pagkapulikat ng mga kalamnan, at pananakit ng ulo. Kung nakararanas ng heat exhaustion, narito naman ang mga dapat na gawin. Itigil lahat ng aktibidad at magpahinga. Uminom ng malamig na tubig o ng mga sports drinks. Lumipat sa mas malamig na lugar. Narito ang ilan sa payo para makaiwas sa mga karamdamang dulot ng matinding init ng panahon. Manatili na lang sa bahay kung walang importanteng lakad. Iwasang manatili ng mahabang oras sa labas, lalo na sa pinakamainit na bahagi ng araw, alas 9 ng umaga hanggang alas 3 ng hapon. Ugaliin ring magdala ng payong o sombrero tuwing lalabas. Iwasan din ang paggawa ng mabigat na trabaho o pag-ehersisyo sa pinakamainit na bahagi ng araw. Kung 2 palapag ang bahay, manatili sa babang palapag na hindi direktang nasisikatan ng araw. Dalasan ang pag-inom ng tubig at umiwas sa pag-inom ng alak na nagdudulot naman ng dehydration. Magsuot lamang ng mga damit na presko, light colors at komportable. Tandaan, prevention is better than cure. Kapag sinunod natin ang mga nabanggit na prevention measures, magiging panatag tayo at masaya. Kaya naman dapat na maging prioridad natin ang pag-iwas sa mga karamdaman kaysa maghanap tayo ng remedyo sa mga ito.
Delicious, delicious, delicious.
I'm Wendell Garcia. Join me as I rediscover the joys of living here in the Philippines.
Oh my God!
Travel through taste. Discover your next adventure as we take you on our tasty travel.
Isang malinis sa paraan ng transportasyon ng pagbibisikleta. Bukod sa wala itong ibinubugang emisyon gaya ng mga sasakyan, maliit din lang ang inookupan nitong espasyo. Maganda rin ito sa kalusugan. At mabisang ehersisyo para maiwasan ang mga sakit. Pero hindi pa rin handa ang bansa na isama bilang uri ng transport mode ang mga bisikleta. Sa datos kasi ng Metropolitan Manila Development Authority o MMDA, Nitong 2015, 26 na nagbibisikleta ang namatay sa kalye dahil sa bungguan, habang 732 naman ang nasugatan. Kaya naman dapat ding pagtuunan ng pansin ang paglikha ng bike lanes para mas maging ligtas ang pagbibisikleta. Bilang isang alternatibong transportasyon, malaki ang maitutulong ng pagbibisikleta hindi lamang sa ating kalusugan, kundi maging sa ating kapaligiran. Ako si Mylene Mariano Rivera, kaisa sa pagsusulong ng paggamit ng bisikleta at paglikha pa ng mga bike lane sa bansa.
Hi guys, today we are going to Mount Ansi together with the Social
Now we're doing the briefing before the climb. Wow, this is a tough climb. Yeah, it's game on, man.
We have a great assault. So I can say it's like 10 over 10.
So this climb you think is hard?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Yeah, because it's 10 over 10 for me.
Yeah, I just want to drink my water.
The trail is very slippery and very muddy. We love outdoor adventures, and currently for this climb we are composed of 30 climbers. Yeah. So let me just get back on the trail because they are leaving me. Now we are almost there at the summit. It's a fun but tiring trek, but it's worth it. 18 minutes to go before we reach the summit. Yeah!
Social climbers at Malaysia.
We are here now at the peak, and our tour guide just brought us watermelon, and this is so refreshing. This view and this watermelon, this is definitely a good treat. Watermelon! Watermelon! While we are having lunch, suddenly the rain dropped and now we're all wet. It is now raining here at the peak and it's so cold! How do you find the climb?
Well, as you can see, it's foggy. It's quite hard. It's quite difficult, but we are happy. As you can see, we have a lot of climbers here, and we are very happy with that.
It's raining and slippery. The trail is hard and visibility is not so good because there's fog all around. So we have to be careful. Sleeping beside the river and waking up with this sound is so priceless. So my advice to you, try the outdoors. Yeah.
watchers, keep on watching Digital Nest every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:30 p.m. And this is Jaime Miranda Jr. and I am 1 to 25. Woo!